The Valkyrie Empire had ruled the stars. For 3,000 years, their warships moved through space like dark clouds of death. Every species they met had two choices: submit and serve, or fight and die due. High Commander Threshold stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crushing Silence. His dark armor covered a body built for war, forearms hardship, skin, eyes that could see in complete darkness. He had led the conquest of 17 star systems in a single year. Entire civilizations had fallen before him. He had never known defeat. Today his scouts had found something new. "Report," he said, his voice like stones grinding together. His intelligence officer stepped forward. The smaller Valkyrie held a data pad in his clawed hands. "We have discovered a new species, Commander. They call themselves humans. They come from a small blue world called Earth." "Show me." The screen lit up with images. Threshold leaned forward and studied the creatures. They stood on two legs. Their skin was soft and pink with no armor at all, no claws, no fangs. Worth mentioning, their eyes were small and weak. They had no natural weapons of any kind. "This is a joke," Threshold said. "No, Commander, they are real. They have recently developed faster than light travel, very primitive technology. They have established a colony on a planet called Kepler 442b. About 12,000 of them live there." Threshold made a clicking sound with his mandibles. It was laughter. "Look at them. They are soft, weak. They have no shells, no venom, no regeneration. How did they even survive on their own world?" "Unknown, Commander. Our data shows they are short-lived. Most die within 80 or 90 years, less than a century." Threshold laughed again. "What can such creatures accomplish in such a brief time?" "Very little, it seems. They are also divided. They fight among themselves constantly. Different groups, different beliefs. They cannot even unite their own species." Threshold turned away from the screen. He had seen enough. These humans were nothing. They were prey animals who had somehow stumbled into space. They would make adequate slaves, nothing more. "Send a single battle group to the colony," he ordered. "Destroy their settlement. Capture whoever survives. They can work in our mines." "Yes, Commander. Should we attempt communication first? Perhaps offer them a chance to surrender?" Thresh did not even consider it. "No, they are not worth the time. Burn them." Battle group departed that same day. 5 warships, 2,000 soldiers, enough firepower to destroy a small moon. It was by Valkyrie standards a small force, almost insulting. The Threshold saw no need to waste resources on such weak creatures. The colony on Kepler 4 to be never saw them coming. It was early morning when the Valkyrie ships appeared in the sky. The humans had been going about their daily lives. Children were walking to school, farmers were tending their crops, scientists were working in their laboratories, families were eating breakfast together. Then the sky turned red. Plasma fire rained down like a storm from hell. Buildings melted in seconds. The ground itself caught fire. People ran screaming through the streets, but there was nowhere to run. The Valkyrie ships circled overhead like patient predators, burning everything they saw. A mother grabbed her 2 children and ran for the evacuation shovels. Behind her, her home exploded into flames. Her husband was still inside. She did not look back. She could not look back. She just ran. "Mommy, what's happening?" her daughter screamed. "Don't look, baby, just run. Keep running." The evacuation shuttles were old and slow. They were meant for emergencies, but no one had ever expected an emergency like this. Colonists fought to get aboard. Some made it, most did not. The mother pushed her children through the shuttle door just as a plasma bolt struck the ground behind her. The heat burned her back. She fell forward into the ship, her children crying in her arms. Go! Someone shouted. Go now! The shuttle lifted off through the small window. The mother watched her colony die. Everything she had worked for, everything she had built, everyone she had known, it was all burning. There were 8 shuttles in total, 8 out of the entire colony. They carried 847 survivors. 847 out of 12,000. The rest were dead. Thought people who had come to spend their final years in peace. Scientists who had dreamed of discovering new things. Teachers who had wanted to educate the next generation. Children who had never heard anyone. Babies who had never even taken their first steps. All dead. The Valkyrie did not count the bodies. They did not record the names. They did not care about the families that have been destroyed or the dreams that have been ended. To them this was a small operation, a minor action not even worth mentioning in their official records. High Commander Threshful received the report 3 days later. Tali destroyed, minimal resistance. Some survivors escaped but posed no threat. Operation successful. He read it once and deleted it. There were more important matters to attend to. The Valkyrie had 17 star systems to manage. This tiny human colony was already forgotten, but on those 8 shuttles, fleeing through the cold darkness of space, 847 humans remembered. They remembered the screams. They remembered the fire. They remembered the faces of loved ones they would never see again. Children remembered parents. Parents remembered children. Husbands remembered wives. Friends remembered friends. They gathered in the cargo holds and shared their stories. They spoke the names of the dead out loud so they would not be forgotten. They cried together. They held each other, and slowly as the days passed, something changed in their eyes. The tears dried. The grief hardened into something else, something cold, something patient, something that would not rest until justice was done. A young man who had lost his entire family stood before the survivors. His name was Thomas Chun. His wife and 3 children had died in the attack. He had nothing left but his memories and his rage. They think we are weak, he said, his voice steady. They think we are soft. They think they can burn our homes and kill our families and we will do nothing. He looked around at the survivors, at the wounded, at the orphan children, at the elderly who had lost everything. They are wrong. No one cheered. No one shouted, but everyone nodded. Everyone understood. We will find them, Thomas continued. We will make them pay for every life they took. It may take months, it may take years, it may take generations, but we will find them, and we will teach them why the universe should fear humanity. In the darkness of space, 8 small shuttles carried 847 survivors toward Earth. They were weak. They were few. They had almost nothing. But they had something the Valkyrie did not understand, something more powerful than ships or weapons or armies. They had memory. They had patience, and they had hate. The hunt had begun. 3 weeks passed after the attack on Kepler 442b. The Valkyrie Empire continued its Business as usual, they conquered, they enslaved, they expanded. The destruction of one small human colony was already ancient history to them. Then the Disari came. The Disari were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They had traveled among the stars when they Valkyrie were still learning to make fire. Their bodies were made of living crystal. They glowed with soft light that changed color with their emotions. They rarely left their ancient worlds. They rarely spoke to younger species at all. So when a Visari ship appeared at the Valkyrie home world and demanded an audience with the Emperor, it caused quite a stir. Emperor Kalar sat on his throne in the great hall of his palace. The throne was made from the bones of his enemies. The walls were decorated with the flags of conquered worlds. Everything in the room was designed to show power, to cause fear, to remind visitors that the Valkyrie were masters of this galaxy. That theory ambassador walked slowly into the hall. It was old, even by the Sari standards. Its crystal body was clouded with age. Its light pulsed in strange patterns that no one in the room had ever seen before. You may speak, the Emperor said, not bothering to hide his boredom. The Dari's voice was like music, but there was something wrong with it, something broken. 3 weeks ago, your forces attacked a human colony. You killed 12,000 of them. You must undo this. Emperor Kel Frost raised one of his 4 arms. Undo? They are dead. How do you suggest I undo death? You must offer reparations, apologies, give the humans whatever they ask for, return their dead, build monuments to them, beg for forgiveness. The Emperor laughed. The sound echoed through the great hall. His guards and advisors laughed with him. Beg? The Valkyrie begged to no one, especially not the soft, weak creatures who cannot even defend a single colony. You do not understand. The Disari stepped closer to the throne. Its light was pulsing faster now. The colors were shifting to dark blues and purples. Colors. The humans are not what they appear to be. They appear to be prey. Easy prey. They are not prey. They are predators, the most dangerous kind of predators. This made the Emperor smile. Predators with those soft bodies, those blunt teeth, those weak little arms. What do they hunt? Small plants. They hunt everything. The Dari's voice dropped lower. On their home world, they hunted creatures much larger and stronger than themselves. Creatures with fangs and claws and armor, and they won every time they won. How magic patience. The Emperor waited for more. When they said nothing else, he shook his head. Patience, that is their great weapon. You do not understand what patience means to a human. On their world, they developed a hunting method that no other species in the galaxy has ever used. They call it persistence hunting. Explain theories. Lights flickered when a human hunted. It did not chase its prey to catch it. It followed slowly, steadily for hours, for days, sometimes for weeks. The prey would run, the human would walk. The prey would run again. The human would keep walking. Eventually the prey would collapse from exhaustion, and the human would simply walk up to it and kill it. The Emperor was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed again. We are not prey. Animals running through grasslands. We have ships, weapons, armies. It does not matter. The humans have adapted this hunting method to everything they do. When they want something, they pursue it. They never stop. They never give up. They will chase you across the galaxy if they must. Let them try. We will crush them. You cannot crush them. The Disari was almost pleading now. there is an old warning among the elder species. It comes from a time before your empire existed, before your species even discovered fire. The warning says, do not attack the humans, they do not forget, they do not forgive, and they do not stop. Old stories, myths, superstition, we call it the eternal hunt. When humans are wronged, truly wronged, something awakens inside them. Something ancient, something that will not rest until the wrong is made right. They will sacrifice everything. They will burn their own worlds. They will spend generations pursuing their enemy. Time means nothing to them. Distance means nothing. They will find you. They will always find you. Emperor Kel thrust stood up from his throne. He was massive even for a Valkyrie. His shadow fell over the ancient Dari like a dark cloud. You come into my hall and tell me to fear these creatures, these soft, short-lived, divided creatures. You insult me. I'm trying to save you. Save me. The Emperor's mandibles clicked with anger. I have conquered half the galaxy. I have destroyed species that were older and stronger than these humans. I have faced enemies with weapons that could crack planets open, and you want me to fear creatures who hunt by walking? Yes, because that is exactly why you should fear them. They do not fight like other species. They do not think like other species. When you kill a Valkyrie soldier, the war goes on. When you kill a human's family, you do not end a threat. You create one. You create an enemy who will never stop, who will teach their children to hate you, who will teach their children's children, who will turn your destruction of them into a religion. The Emperor gestured to his guards. Remove this creature from my sight. The Valkyrie did not bow to fairy tales. The guards moved forward. Dari did not resist, but as it was being led away, it turned back to look at the Emperor one final time. Its light had stopped pulsing. It had gone completely dark. Among the theory, this meant only one thing. Morning, you are already dead, the Sari said. Its voice was quiet, almost gentle. You simply do not know it yet. The humans are coming for you. Not today, not tomorrow, but they are coming, and when they arrive, you will remember this moment. You will remember that you were warned. You will remember that you could have stopped it, and you will die knowing that you chose this fate. The guards dragged the Sari away. Its dark crystal body disappeared through the doors of the great hall. Emperor Kalros sat back down on his throne of bones. He told himself that the Zari was old and foolish, that the warnings were nothing but ancient superstition, that the humans were weak and would never be a threat. That night, for the first time in his long life, the Emperor had trouble sleeping. He kept thinking about those words. Persistence, hunting, following, never stopping, patient beyond comprehension. He told himself it was nothing, just the ramblings of an old creature who had lived too long, far away on Earth. The survivors of Kepler 442b were meeting with the leaders of humanity. They were showing them images of the attack. They were reading the names of the dead. They were asking for help. And humanity was listening. In laboratories, scientists began studying Valkyrie biology. In factories, engineers began designing new weapons. In militaries, officers began planning strategies. In schools, children began learning a new word, vengeance. The eternal hunt was real, and it had begun. The Emperor would learn this soon enough, but by then it would be far too late. 8 months passed after the massacre on Kepler 442b. The Volarian Empire continued to grow. They conquered 3 more star systems. They enslaved 2 more species. Everything was normal, everything was as it should be. Then the first message came. A Valkyr listening post on the edge of their territory picked up a strange signal. It was a simple radio transmission repeating over and over on all frequencies. The officer on duty recorded it and ran it through the translation system. The message contained only 6 words: "We remember." Kepler 442b. We come. The officer stared at the screen. He did not know what to make of it. He sent a report to High Commander Threshold and went back to his duties. He never sent another report. 12 hours later, the listening post went silent. No distress call, no explanation, just silence. Threshold sent a patrol fleet to investigate. 5 ships, 200 soldiers, more than enough to handle any problem. They arrived at the listening post 3 days later. What they found would haunt them forever. The station was dark, no power, no lights, no life signs. The patrol team entered carefully, weapons ready. They found the crew exactly where they had fallen. Everyone was dead, not from weapons fire, not from combat. The life support system had been sabotaged. The air had been slowly pumped out of the station. The crew had suffocated over several hours. They had known they were dying. They had tried to fix the system. They had failed, but that was not the worst part. On the walls of the command center, someone had written a message. The letters were large and crude, painted in the blood of the dead crew. The number 12,000, nothing else. Just the number, the exact number of humans who had died on Kepler 442 BTHR. Ease's single quotes. Val read the report 3 times. He did not understand. How had the humans gotten past their defenses? How had they sabotaged the station without being detected? How had they escaped without leaving any trace? He ordered increased security on all border stations. He doubled the patrols. He sent warnings to every commander. The fleet. It did not help. Over the next 3 months, 17 more stations went silent. Each time the patrol teams found the same thing: dead crew, disabled life support, and that number painted somewhere in blood. 12. Oh, but the stations were just the beginning. A COD Volari supply convoy was ambushed in deep space. The attack came from nowhere. Human ships appeared, fired, and vanished before the Valkyrie could respond. They did not destroy the convoy. They destroyed exactly 1 ship, killing 47 crew members. Then they left. The surviving ships received a transmission as the humans disappeared. 47 down, 11,953 to go. They were keeping count. Threshold began to understand what was happening. The humans were not fighting a war. Wars had goals: territory to capture, resources to take, enemies to defeat. This was something different. This was a hunt. The humans were picking off Valkyrie forces one by one. Not enough to threaten the Empire, just enough to terrify it. Every attack was a message. Every death was a payment. They were collecting a debt in blood. We need to find their base. Threshold told the Emperor, we need to strike back, destroy them before this goes any further. Then find them. We have tried. They are ghosts. They attack and disappear. They know our patrol routes. They know our schedules. They know everything about us. Impossible. They are primitives. How could they know our secrets? The answer came a week later. Valkyrie intelligence discovered that the humans had sent ambassadors to every species the Empire had ever conquered, every species they had enslaved, every species they had wronged. The humans had asked them one simple question: what do you know about the Valkyrie? And everyone had answered. Centuries of conquered peoples had shared their knowledge, military tactics, technological weaknesses, political divisions, secret shipping, routes, hidden bases, everything that centuries of victims had learned about their oppressors was now in human hands. The hunted had become the hunters, and they had the entire galaxy helping them. Threshful called an emergency meeting of all high commanders. They gathered in the war room of the flagship. Their faces grim. The situation is worse than we thought. Threshful began. The humans are not acting alone. They have formed alliances with at least 30 species. They are receiving technology, resources, and intelligence from across the galaxy. Then we crush them all. One commander said, we have the largest fleet in known space. We tried. I sent a battle group to intercept a human raiding party, 50 ships against 10. We outnumbered them 5-1, and we lost 23 ships. They lost 2. They did not try to win the battle. They did not try to hold position. They attacked, killed as many of us as they could, and retreated. By the time we regrouped, they were gone. Another commander spoke up. This is madness. No species fights like this. What do they want? Territory. Resources. We can negotiate. They do not want territory. They do not want resources. Threshold pulled up an intercepted transmission on the main screen. They want us. The transmission was a human military broadcast. It showed human soldiers training for combat, but it was the words that mattered. We are not Terran anymore. Human officer was saying to his troops. We are not colonists. We are not explorers. We are hunters, and we will hunt the Valkyrie until every last one of them pays for. Kepler 442b. This is not a war. This is the eternal hunt. And it ends only when we say it ends. The room was silent. Threshful turned off the screen. They have given themselves a new name. They call themselves hunters now, and they mean it. Every human soldier, every human ship, every human child is dedicated to one purpose: our destruction. Then we destroy them first with what they are. Everywhere and nowhere, they attack when we are weak and retreat when we are strong. They know our every move before we make it, and for every one of them we kill. 10 more volunteered to take their place. The youngest commander in the room spoke quietly. What do we do? Threshful looked at him. For the first time in his long career, he had no answer. We survive, he finally said. If we can. Far away, in a hidden basin, empty space, Thomas Chun stood before a wall covered with maps and photographs. His hair had turned gray. Lines had carved themselves into his face, but his eyes were the same, cold, patient, burning with purpose. Status report, he said. 347 confirmed kills. His aide reported 17 stations destroyed, 4 convoys disrupted, 2 admirals assassinated. Not enough, not nearly enough. The fleet is growing. More ships arrive every day. More species are joining our cause. Valkyrie are starting to fear us. Thomas nodded slowly. Fear is good. Fear is a start, but fear is not enough. I want them to know despair. I want them to understand that there is no hope, no Escape no future, I want them to wake up every morning wondering if today is the day we come for them. He turned back. To the wall, in the center was a photograph, a woman and two children, smiling in front of a small house. His family, his reason. We are patient, he whispered. We are relentless, and we are just getting started. The eternal hunt continued, and it would not stop until the debt was paid in full. 2 years had passed since the massacre on Kepler 442b. The Valkyrie Empire was dying. No one would have believed it possible. The Valkyrie had ruled the stars for 3,000 years. They had conquered countless worlds. They had defeated every enemy they had ever faced. They were supposed to be invincible, but the humans did not care about what was supposed to be due. 30 star systems had fallen, not to invasion, not to conquest. The humans did not want worlds. They wanted Valkyrie lips, and they were taking them one by one. That had it started with the military leaders, admirals who had commanded the attack on Kepler 442b. Began to die. Some were assassinated. Their sleep, others vanished from secure locations and were never seen again. One was found dead in a locked room with no windows and only one door. The guards outside had heard nothing, seen nothing. The admiral simply died. A small human blade through his heart. Thought no one knew how the humans did it. Their assassins moved like ghosts. They bypassed every security system. They walked through walls and disappeared into shadows. Some Valkyrie began to believe that the humans had developed some kind of cloaking technology. Others believed something worse. They believed the humans had become something more than mortal. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. The humans had become patient. They studied their targets for months before striking. They learned every routine, every schedule, every weakness. They waited in dark corners for days without moving. They held their breath for minutes at a time. They endured pain and hunger and exhaustion that would have broken any other species, and when the moment was perfect, they struggled properly. In months, he jumped at shadows. He trusted no one. His own guards frightened him now. Any one of them could be a human in disguise. Any one of them could be waiting for the right moment. We must end this, he told Emperor Calf. We must offer them peace. The emperor looked old. The stress of the past 2 years had broken something inside him. The arrogance was gone. The pride was gone. All that remained was fear. What can we offer them? The emperor asked. They do not want our worlds. They do not want our resources. What do they want? I do not know, but we must try. The peace offer was sent through every diplomatic channel. It was broadcast on every frequency. The Valkyrie offered territory. They offered wealth. They offered prisoners. They offered to withdraw from every system they had conquered in the past century. They offered everything except the one thing the humans wanted. The response came 3 days later. It was not a message. It was an image. A single photograph transmitted to every Valkyrie ship and station in the galaxy. The photograph showed a child's toy, a small stuffed animal burned and melted almost beyond recognition. It had been recovered from the ashes of Kepler 442b. Below the image were 3 words: "We're not finished." Emperor Kelro stared at the image for a long time. He understood. Now there would be no negotiation, no surrender, no end to this until they Humans decided it was over. How can? They hate us so much, he whispered. How can they sustain this rage for so long? Threshold had no answer, but the humans did do in training camps across human space. Children were being raised on stories of Kepler 442b. They learned the names of the dead. Before they learned to read, they sang songs about vengeance before they could walk. The attack had become more than a tragedy. It had become a founding myth, a sacred duty passed from generation to generation. The humans had transformed their grief into a weapon, and that weapon would never grow dull. New technologies poured from human laboratories, ships that could hide from Valkyrie, sensors, weapons designed specifically to kill Valkyrie biology, poisons that targeted their nervous systems. Every adaptation the Valkyrie made was countered within weeks. The humans learned from every battle, every engagement, every death. And still they came. The human fleet grew larger. Every month, ships from allied species joined them. Volunteers from conquered worlds signed up to fight. The Valkyrie had spent 3,000 years making enemies. Now all those enemies had united under a single banner. The banner showed a simple image, a blue planet with a torch burning above it, the torch of vengeance that would never be extinguished. By the end of the second year, the Valkyrie military was in collapse. Officers refused to take field commands. Soldiers deserted their posts. Entire fleets surrendered without firing a shot. The humans did not accept surrender. We are not here to conquer. Thomas Chum broadcast to a surrendering Valkyrie fleet. We are here to hunt. If you want to live, run. Run as far and as fast as you can. Maybe we will not catch you. Maybe you will escape, but no. This we will be following today. Tomorrow, next year, next century, we will be following. The fleet ran. The humans followed. On the Valkyrie home world, preparations were being made for the end. The Emperor knew they could not win. He knew they could not negotiate. All that remained was to wait for death. How long do we have? He asked. Threshold intelligence suggests that main human fleet will arrive within a month. They are gathering all their forces for a final assault. How many ships? Threshold hesitated. 12,000. The Emperor closed his eyes. 12,000 ships, one for every human who had died on Kepler 442b. Is there any hope? No, Your Majesty. There is no hope. The Emperor nodded. Slowly, he had known this day would come. The Dasari had warned him. He had not listened. Now there was nothing left but to face the consequences. Tell our people to prepare. Tell them the humans are coming. Tell them. He paused, searching for words. Tell them to die with honor. It is all we have left. Far across the galaxy, the human fleet was indeed gathering. 12,000 ships from dozens of species, all united under human command. They moved through space like a dark tide, unstoppable and patient. On the flagship, the ship they had named Kepler's memory, Thomas Chun stood at the viewport and watched the stars pass by. He was old now. His body was tired. His hands trembled, but his eyes were still the same. His aide approached him. Sir, we have received a final communication from the Valkyrie home world. They are asking for mercy. Thomas did not turn around. What kind of mercy did they show our children on Kepler 442b? None, sir. Then they already know our answer. The fleet continued on its course. In 3 weeks they would arrive at The Villere home world. In 3 weeks, 3 years of hunting would come to an end. Thomas Chun looked at the stars and thought about his wife, his children, the home that had been burned to ash. He had spent 3 years fighting for this moment. He had sacrificed everything. Soon the debt would be paid, but he knew deep in his heart that payment would not bring them back. Nothing would bring them back. All he could do was make sure that the universe remembered that no one ever attacked humans again, that the eternal hunt would be feared forever. All ships, he said quietly into the communicator, prepare for the final approach. The hunt is almost over. 12,000 ships answered with a single word, confirmed. The darkness of space swallowed the fleet as it moved toward its final destination. The Villere home world waited, helpless and afraid. The hunt was almost over, and then the true lesson would begin. The human fleet arrived at the Villere home world on the 3rd anniversary of the massacre, exactly 3 years to the day since 12,000 humans had burned on Kepler 442 B2000. Ships emerged from faster than light travel in perfect formation. They filled the space around the planet like a swarm of angry stars. For a long moment, nothing happened. The humans simply waited, letting the Villere see what was coming for them. On the surface, Emperor Calrose watched from his palace. The sky was dark with human ships, so many ships, more than he had ever seen in one place. This is it, he said to no one in particular. This is the end, High Commander. Threshold stood beside him. Our defenses are ready, Your Majesty. We will fight to the last. What is the point? They will win. They were always going to win. Then we die with honor. The Emperor laughed bitterly. Honor? I wonder if the humans on Kepler 442 b thought about honor when our plasma fire burned them alive. I wonder if the children thought about honor when they died screaming for their parents. Threshold had no answer. The attack began at dawn. Human ships descended through the atmosphere like falling stars. Valkyrie defense stations opened fire, but there were too many targets for every human ship. Destroyed, 10 more took its place. They were endless, relentless, patient even in battle. But the most terrifying thing was not their numbers, it was their silence on the command channels. The Valkyrie monitored human communications. They expected battle cries, shouts of rage, the sounds of revenge. Instead, they heard singing, thousands of human voices all singing the same song. Slow, sad melody that seemed to fill the entire sky. The words were in human language, but the Valkyrie translators rendered them into something they could understand. It was not a war song. It was not a hymn of victory. It was something else entirely. A song about grace, about being lost and being found, about peace in the face of death. Threshold listened to the singing and felt something he had never felt before. Not fear, not anger, something deeper. Something that made him want to weep. What is this song? He asked. His communications officer checked the translation data. They call it amazing grace. It is an ancient human hymn, very old. They sing it at funerals. Funerals. Yes, Commander, they are not singing for themselves. They are singing for their dead. The Villere defenses fell within hours. Human ground forces landed on the surface and began their advance toward the capital. They did not rush. They did not hurry. They simply walked forward, step by step, patient and unstoppable. just like the Sari had described. Persistent hunters following their prey. Until it collapsed, the palace guard fought bravely. They held the gates for 2 hours. When they finally fell, only a handful of humans had died, but those humans were immediately replaced by others who stepped forward without hesitation. They were not fighting for glory or conquest. They were fighting for something older and deeper. They were fighting for their dead emperor. Kelfrost died in his throne room, surrounded by the bones of his ancestors. He did not beg for mercy. He knew there was none to be had. The human who killed him was a woman. She was small and thin, with gray in her hair and scars on her face. She walked through his guards like they were not there. Her movements were precise and deadly. She had trained for this moment for 3 years. The emperor watched her approach. "Who are you?" She did not answer. She simply drew a long blade and drove it through his heart. He died quickly, which was more mercy than he deserved. The woman placed something on his body, a small photograph, faded and worn. It showed a family standing in front of a house. A mother and 2 children smiling at the camera. "My sister," the woman said quietly. "My niece and nephew. You killed them. Now we are even." She walked away without looking back. Dark by sunset, the Valkyrie Empire was no more. Their home world was in flames. Their military was destroyed. Their leaders were dead. 3,000 years of conquest had ended in a single day. But the humans were not finished. Admiral James Chun, son of Thomas Chun, stood on the bridge of the Kepler's memory. He was younger than his father had been when the hunt began, but he had the same eyes, cold, patient, burning with purpose. His father had died 6 months ago. His heart had finally given out after years of relentless work, but before he died he had made his son promise one thing: finish the hunt and make sure no one ever forgets. James activated the galactic broadcast system. Every species in the known universe would hear this message. Every planet, every ship, every station. This was the moment everything changed. To all who hear this, he began, his voice calm and steady. "My name is Admiral James Chun of the United Human Fleet. 3 years ago, the Vari Empire attacked a peaceful human colony called Kepler 442b. They killed 12,000 of our people without warning or provocation." He paused, letting the words sink in. "We did not seek war. We did not desire revenge. We wanted only to explore the stars in peace, but we were given no choice. When our people died, something awakened in us, something old and patient, something that would not rest until justice was done. Today that justice is complete. The Vari Empire is no more. Their home world burns. Their military is destroyed. Every commander who ordered the attack on our colony is dead." He leaned forward and his voice dropped lower. The kindness drained from his face. "Let this be a lesson to all who hear this message. Humanity is not a violent species by nature. We do not seek conquest. We do not desire war. We want only to live in peace among the stars. But we remember, we always remember, every species that harms our people will face the same fate as the Volsari. It does not matter how powerful you are. It does not matter how many ships you have. It does not matter how far you run. We will follow for months, for years, for generations if necessary. We will follow until you collapse, until you fall, until justice is done. This is not a threat. This is not pride. This is simply what we are. We are the species that walked across continents to hunt. Our prey, we are the species that sailed across oceans in wooden ships. We are the species that survived ice ages and plagues and wars. We are the species that refused to die no matter what the universe threw at us. So let this be known to all who hear. The eternal hunt is real. You have seen what happens when it is awakened. Do not make the same mistake the Valkyrie made. He straightened up in something almost like compassion entered his voice. We do not want enemies. We want friends. We want allies. We want to explore the universe together and discover its wonders. Join us in peace and you will find no better companions, but attack our people, harm our families, burn our children. His eyes went cold again, and we will hunt you to the end of time. The broadcast ended across the galaxy. Species who had watched the Valkyrie fall now understood what they had witnessed. This was not just a war, this was a demonstration, a promise, a warning written in fire and blood. Military leaders began rewriting their protocols. Any plan that involved human casualties was abandoned. Any operation that might harm human interest was canceled. The cost was simply too high. Diplomatic delegations were sent to Earth. Gifts were offered. Treaties were proposed. Species that had ignored humanity for centuries now competed to be their closest allies. Dodge. And in schools across the galaxy, children began to learn a new lesson. Simple lesson that would be taught for generations to come. Do not attack the humans. They remember everything and they never stop. 1,000 years later, there was peace in the galaxy, not because humans enforced it. They had returned to their quiet exploration, their science, their art. They built beautiful cities on distant worlds. They made friends with dozens of species. They were kind and curious and full of wonder, but everyone remembered what they were capable of. Everyone remembered the lesson of the Valkyrie. On the anniversary of the massacre, humans across the galaxy would pause their work and observe a moment of silence. They would remember the 12,000 who died on Kepler 442b. They would remember the hunt that followed. They would remember what their ancestors had done to ensure that it never happened again. And somewhere in the archives, the photograph of a woman and 2 children smiling in front of their home was preserved forever. Reminder of why humanity had become the most feared species in the universe, not because they were the strongest, not because they were the smartest, but because they were patient, and patience, in the end, was the most terrifying weapon of all. The eternal hunt was over, but it would never be forgotten.